With the presidential election just around the corner and the next debate on September 10th, housing policy is a hot topic that could impact millions of Americans. Both candidates are ramping up their final push for victory, each with a slate of proposals designed to win over voters. But what exactly are they proposing when it comes to housing? How might their plans affect the real estate market and consumers like you? Could these policies solve the housing crisis, or might they lead to unintended consequences like a market crash in the future? Well, in today's video, we'll break down the housing policies from each candidate, analyze their potential effects, and discuss what they could mean for you. Hello, this is Bojie He, your local Bay Area real estate expert, and welcome back to my channel. Whether you're buying, selling, or just staying informed, I'm here to give you the latest insights and strategies to navigate a complex real estate world. Housing is a critical issue, especially here in the Bay Area where prices are high and supply is low. As we gear up for the next presidential debate on September 10th, it's essential to understand the housing policies these candidates are proposing, as they could directly impact the real estate market in the long run. Now, before we dive in, I want to make it clear that I have no political bias. This channel is also not a political channel either, and the intention of this video is purely educational and for informational purposes only. We'll be sticking with the facts that we have so far and providing a neutral analysis to help you better understand these important issues. With that out of the way, let's look at what exactly the housing issue is and why is it such a hard problem to solve. The US housing crisis isn't just about high prices, it's a multifaceted issue rooted in a significant supply-demand imbalance, with millions of Americans finding it increasingly difficult to secure affordable housing. The problem has escalated to a national crisis. The shortage of housing supply, estimated to be between 2.5 to 4.5 million homes, has been exacerbated by restrictive zoning laws and building regulations that limit where and what type of housing can be built. These regulations often preserve the status quo, protecting existing property value at the expenses of creating more affordable housing options. In addition to these challenges, the dual role of housing as both a commodity for wealth generation and a basic human needs creates a political and economic paradox. Policymakers are tasked with making housing affordable while also maintaining or increasing property values. Is a very difficult balance to strike. This tension is at the heart of many housing policy debates, and it's something that both Harris and Trump's plan attempt to address, even though in different ways. Let's compare the policy and proposal between the two sides. Starting with Kamala Harris, we got number one, building 3 million affordable homes. Harris's plan to tackle the housing shortage is by constructing 3 million affordable homes across the US. These homes will be aimed at low and medium income families, defined as those earning less than 80% of the area's median income. Number two, $25,000 down payment assistance. This is to help first-time home buyers, especially first-generation buyers. Harris proposes up to $25,000 in down payment assistance. This is designed to make it easier for families to enter the housing market. Of course, restrictions would apply. Raising capital gain tax on high-income earners. Harris supports raising the capital gain tax, particularly targeting high-income earners, those that make over $1 million annually. The increased revenue would be used to fund social programs, including housing initiatives. Number four, strengthening fair housing laws. Harris has emphasized the needs for stronger enforcement for the fair housing laws, including restoring and expanding regulations like the affirmatively furthering fair housing rules that was rolled back by the Trump administration. Last but not least, number five, support rent control. Now, from Donald Trump's side, we got number one, deregulation of the housing market. Now, Trump advocates for reducing federal regulations, believing that this will spur private sector developments and lowering housing costs. This includes rolling back the Obama era's policy like the affirmatively furthering fair housing rule. Number two, preservation of suburb zoning. Now, Trump emphasized on protecting suburb neighborhoods from federal mandates that could increase housing density. His policy aims to keep single-family zoning intact, arguing that this protects home values and communities' characters. Number three, tax incentives for homeownership. Trump supports tax incentives like mortgage interest reduction to encourage homeownership. He also introduced opportunity zones to incentivize investments in economically distressed areas, which could have indirect effect on housing. Despite their differing political ideology and specific actions, Trump and Harris share some common ground when it comes to the housing shortage issues. Number one, they both recognize the problem of restrictive zoning and building regulations. Both candidates acknowledge that these local rules are significant barriers to increasing the housing supply. While their methods differ, Harris advocates for working with local government to reform zoning, and Trump pushes for deregulations to encourage private sector developments. Number two, both also agree on the needs to increase housing supplies as a critical part of solving the affordability crisis. Harris' plan to build 3 million new homes and Trump's emphasis on opening up federal land for developments are both aiming at addressing these shortfalls. However, where they diverge is in how they plan to achieve this increase in supply, with Harris focusing on affordable housing and direct assistance, and Trump leaning on market-driven solutions and deregulations. Now, both Harris and Trump's approaches echoes similar actions taken by their predecessors in history. Harris's focus on affordable housing and down payment assistance draws from historical policies like those from the New Deal era and post-World War II housing programs. These initiatives were effective in addressing housing shortages and making homeownership more accessible. For instance, the New Deal's public housing project provided stable housing for millions of Americans during the Great Depression. Similarly, the GI Bill after World War II enabled many veterans to purchase homes, leading to a significant increase in home ownership rates. Now, here in the Bay Area, we already have existing affordable housing and down payment assistance programs for a while, whether you have noticed or not. You see, most of the new construction condo complexes in the city have to have at least 10% units that are dedicated to low-income buyers. These are called BMR, or below market rate properties. They're typically sold 50% less than the market value, and buyers will have to qualify based on where they live, the size of their households, their incomes in order to qualify. All of the offers have to be exactly the same price to prevent overbidding, and all offers have to be financed by city-approved lenders. The winner will be determined by lucky draw, and when selling the property, the seller can only sell it at the price that's approved by the government instead of the market price. So with that, I don't know all the details of Kamala's 3 million affordable housing plan, but I would imagine that the plan will have lots of similar features to what we currently have in the Bay Area. These type of programs could potentially ease the housing shortage issues, but it comes with its own challenges. One concern is the uncertainty of what might happen if 3 million homes are built across the country and sold at a significantly reduced price. The government will have to inject substantial funds into the economy to provide down payment assistance and to keep these homes affordable, which raises questions about long-term sustainability of such approach. Simply giving first-time buyer an extra $25,000 to purchase home may not effectively address affordability, especially if there isn't enough housing inventory to meet demand. In the Bay Area, where land is scarce, builders are probably going to build more affordable condos rather than single family homes, which could hurt condo values in the long run if done in excess. History also shows that over time, some public housing projects become neglected, leading to issues like concentrated poverty and deteriorating living conditions. The underlying problem was often a lack of ongoing investment and management, which would turn some initially successful projects into long-term liability. Harris's plan could avoid these pitfalls with proper funding and oversight, ensuring that affordable housing remains viable and well maintained. But again, it requires a lot of money being injected into the economy, and where's the money going to come from? Now, I could appreciate the intention behind these efforts to address the housing shortage, but I just have these questions about how these goals will be achieved. As time goes on, we may gain more clarities on the specifics of the plan and how it will be implemented. But for now, these are just proposals on paper, and we're left to interpret what we know so far. From Donald Trump's side, it is pretty simple and straightforward. His emphasis on deregulation and market-driven solutions mirrors the policies of previous administrations like Ronald Reagan's in the 80s. Now, Reagan's deregulation efforts aimed to stimulate economic growth by reducing the government's role in the housing market. This approach did lead to a boom in the housing sector and broader economic growth. However, it also highlighted the importance of balancing deregulation with sufficient oversight to prevent issues like rising inequality and financial instability. The Bush administration focus on promoting homeownership through deregulation also contributed to the housing market crash in 2008 due to a lack of oversight. Now, Trump's policy could boost housing supply and economic growth, but the potential risks of insufficient regulation need to be carefully considered. So, what do I think? The truth is, it is really hard to keep housing affordable while allowing it to appreciate and build wealth at the same time. The fact is, we don't have enough homes for every buyer across the country. So that's something that has to be done in that regard. And I am glad that both candidates recognize the issue and have plans to address it. Maybe the best solution lies somewhere in between, taking the best from both sides and combine them. Kamala Harris's focus on affordability and direct assistance could help those most in need right now, while Trump's push for deregulation and market-driven market incentives could stimulate broader economic growth and development. A balanced approach combining targeted government intervention with market-driven strategy might be what's needed to address the housing challenge we face today. In the long run, of course, it all comes down to creating a stronger economy where everyone can work hard and have good incomes so that we can all afford to buy homes at market value. One thing I want to point out, when considering the housing market's outlook after the election, it's unlikely we'll see major changes. The US economy is primarily market driven, with the government stepping in occasionally without disrupting the free market's core operation. Additionally, the specifics of new policies and their implementation remain uncertain, making it premature to draw definitive conclusion about the market's future. Elections often bring a degree of uncertainty, but historical data reveals some consistent patterns in the real estate market. Typically, there's a slight dip in the home sales and market activity in the months leading up to an election, a trend that's currently unfolding. However, this slowdown is usually temporary. In the wake of elections, 9 out of the last 11 cycles have experienced an increase in home sales, and home prices have risen in 7 of the last 8 election periods, with the exception of 2008 during the global financial crisis. Additionally, mortgage rates tend to decrease as election approaches, occurring in 8 out of the last 11 cycles. Overall, while elections may cause temporary caution among buyers and sellers, The housing market has historically demonstrated resilience. Post-election period often see a rebound in activity and stable or rising home prices. Therefore, despite the short-term uncertainties that elections may bring, the fundamental dynamics of supply, demand, and economic conditions continue to drive the real estate market forward. Alright, that's it for this video. If you would like to chime in with your thoughts, go to the comment section below and let me know. And don't forget to subscribe for more real estate insights, and I'll see you on the next video.